In today's video, we're going to talk the upcoming changes in 0.3, the good, the bad, and the warrior changes, especially as a main, so buckle up. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Mighty Mouth here, back with another video. So, yesterday was sleeping during the live stream, woke up for work, read the patch notes because they had already dropped, and on my way to work, I listened to the developer live stream. Now, while there were some overwhelmingly positive changes made in the 0.3 patch, I was honestly confused about the sea of positivity in the live stream after reading the patch notes because I read the patch notes first. And first, I'm going to talk about all the positive things, and after that, we're going to get into the warrior side and some of the less positive things that I've seen. So let's dive into it. Epic change number one, Act 4 releasing. So that gives us more content. And honestly, there's 3 interlude acts, kind of placeholders, which I have mixed feelings about, but it does give us more content, more stuff to explore. But I just feel like it's not really the answer everyone was looking for, but that's fine. It just seems like adding 3 additional mini acts that is basically going to take the same amount of time as going through the entire campaign again, because it's like 3 separate acts. Kind of just feels like a new way to do the old way, but the new way was supposed to make it not feel like the old way. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Act 4, new content, awesome. First off, the new league mechanics. So you get to like slay these enemies that occur all throughout the world, and there's these fissures, and if you slay the enemy on a fissure, it like eats their soul, and it like vomits out these other enemies that you kill. That Darth Microtransaction got to voice one of them. Shout out to him, a fellow warrior player. And it just looks really cool. Everything about the mechanic looks awesome. New crafting comes along with the league mechanic. Looks sick. Everything about that, totally awesome. I'm trying to make this video quick, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but just know there's a new pinnacle boss coming with this, and there's like a complete new mechanic. The in-game mechanics you can interact with in general, you start with 2 points in your atlas for everything, so that means you can, kind of ramp up your breaches or simulacrum, delirium encounters and rituals and stuff like that off rip. And to interact with the pinnacle content, you only need splinters, so you need a fraction of the materials instead of the entire material. So that'll allow you to get into that pinnacle content, and I would imagine you could get your other passive points in your atlas sooner that way, I think. So that's another really positive change. Support gem overhaul. So now you can use multiple instances of the same support gem. So you can put martial tempo in all of your skills. You can put concentrated effect in all of your skills. You can do all of this. So that's good. Along with them bringing on some unique support gems that are going to be basically like build defining. So that I'm really interested. I cannot wait to see what these are. My personal favorite changes are the trade system. So now you can make trades while offline, and the crafting system. Oh my God, I was gonna do a how to craft like in early league, but I don't even know now. Like, I don't even know the best way to craft now. I can assume what they're going to do, but I won't know what the exact modifier of each essence. They're now a lesser, a normal, a greater, and a perfect, and they all give a specific modifier of each type, which is a little bit weird, but I guess we'll find out, because honestly, on a ring, if you use a lightning essence, are you gonna get, you can only get resistance, percent, flat damage, and all res. So there's only four options, so it's just like you can just get one of each depending on which essence. And I'm sure the flat lightning damage is going to be the perfect essence because obviously it's the best thing. So it's like super deterministic, which is awesome, but also at the same time kind of almost might be too deterministic for me. I'm kind of a gambling fanatic. Like, I'm addicted to the gamble of making items and sinking endless amounts of currency into things, seemingly just setting currency on fire to make something good and finally getting that gigantic dopamine hit when it hits. I was a fan of that. Now, I do appreciate a little bit more player agency when it comes to determining what you want on an item, but without getting into too much detail about them, just know trading and crafting, awesome. Going to be completely different for all new players. You're going to be able to get basically what you want for the most part in the coming week. So they're putting sprint in the game, which before they even announced it, I knew that it was going to come with a staggering downside. So sure, you can dodge roll, hold it, and you're going to be able to sprint through the map. But if you get breathed on, then you're basically heavy stunned and you get mauled to death by the swarming packs. While I do appreciate the attempt to make some mobility, I myself don't really mind the slower gameplay, so I probably won't use it for anything other than backtracking or maybe going through the campaign, because to me it sounds like stun threshold means nothing. Your strength doesn't determine it. Your block chance doesn't determine if you get knocked down. Your evasion doesn't determine if you get knocked down. It's just if you get hit, period, point blank, the end, you get knocked down. So that's kind of a meme to me. But it will have its implications somewhere. You can use it. It's definitely applicable for backtracking. That much I can guarantee. The rest, I don't know. They increased the duration of ailments by 2x and somehow scaled the damage of shock, which is already extremely powerful. I don't like this change because I think shock was already too powerful. Now, this is where we're going to go into the weeds a little bit, and this is going to be a trigger warning. This is a hot take. So, if you are a diehard GGG fan and you can't take any criticism thrown their way, no matter how constructive it is, turn the video off now. Do not proceed. But if you can muster up enough courage to hear utterances in a negative manner about the decisions they've made, then please continue and leave me your thoughts in a comment below. Whether you agree or disagree, we can be adults here. So let's dive in. As I was saying at the beginning of the video, I read the patch notes first. And what was represented in the patch notes was a stark contrast to what they said in the developer live stream. Everything they said about shield charge dealing more damage based on distance, as if they were buffing the skill, and all these buffs that were happening for things, or a minor tweak to how much block chance you can have. That's very misrepresented. So I did the calculations, and without any multiplier based on distance, shield charge now does 80% less damage. 80%. So it is dealing 1/5 of its base damage it did last league. So if you factor in the end game with all the support gems, they multiply based on the base damage. So when you factor in all these multipliers, it's actually dealing like 1/12 of the damage that it was dealing, because you're multiplying such a lower value and all these things stack on top of each other that it basically nullified shield charge. And even with the multiplier at the furthest possible distance, it is dealing 64% less damage than it did last season. So my shield charge Wind Dancing Blood Mage is gutted. So unless they literally decrease the health of all monsters by chopping it into like a 12th, we're not going to be one-shotting Pinnacle bosses anytime soon with shield charge. So that sucks. And that I spent a lot of time, effort, and currency on that build to get it where it was at. Tweaked every minor thing, every major thing to get 100 capped block chance, which is now going to be super easy to cap because it's only 50%. So we were at 75%, now we're at 50%. Well, that's not that bad, right? No, that's terrible. So not only are you going to be blocking less hits, that affects one of the best ways for warriors and shield bearers alike to gain damage with lay siege and offensive stance. You used to get 1% damage per 1% block chance at 75, so that was 150% increased damage. Now you're only getting 100% increased damage. So take, for example, the Svalin shield. Minus 10 to 20 maximum block chance in order for block chance to be lucky, which basically rolls your block value twice and takes the higher value. So effectively, at a 50 max block chance, you put on a Svalin and you have 30 block chance, and then it's lucky, that gives you a net 1% increased block chance. So that Svalin shield, now instead of being capped at 50 and having to make like a pretty decent investment, you now you throw on a Svalin and you're capped at 50% block chance. You're not actually getting any higher than that. I mean, the math comes out to 51%, but who cares, right? Who cares? Now you have notables and passives and keystones. They're all changing. But when they talked about the keystones, they didn't say any negatives were coming for any of the ones they talked about with the unarmed skills. So all quarterstaff skills can now be used unarmed. But what's the drawback? All the triggering spells every 2 seconds instead of all at once. But what's the drawback? The fire damage being chaos damage and it being based on your ignite chance. But what's the drawback, right? I know with Giant's Blood, it now halves the amount of life you get from strength. So when you have 200 strength, or 212, that you would have needed to wield a mace originally two-handed, you would get 424 life. Now, you triple the attribute requirement, but it's 25% less, so that's 159. Multiply that by 3, it ends up being, I think that's 477. And now you only get 477 life for your 477 strength. So you actually get less life with 500 strength, basically, than you did with 212 strength and not using Giant's Blood. So on the topic of block, so block was going to be far too strong because it can block everything, and 75% is too much. But you can evade everything and deflect everything, and deflect and evade can both, if invested in enough, go to 100%. And Glancing Blows reads, chance to evade is unlucky, chance to deflect is lucky. So basically, you have less of a chance to evade, but you can double your chance to deflect. And if you have, say, a 90% chance to evade, even if it's unlucky, you'll still roll occasionally to evade. And with lucky deflect, you'll basically deflect indefinitely forever. But for some reason, blocking was too powerful at 75% capped. And it took a pretty substantial investment for most people with a tier 1 81% block chance on the shield to even attain 75% block chance anyways. What do they just hate the warrior class? Like, why not just remove the fantasy type from the game at this point? It just doesn't make sense. I cannot wrap my mind around it. So what did they do? Oh, let's let you get life per dext. So now every 4 dext you can get 1 life. So you can get 200 strength on your build, get 400 life. Someone using Giant's Blood, they have 400 strength, they get 400 life. And then you can stack 400 dex with your 200 life, and then you can get 100 more life. But warriors, let's not give them an opportunity to stack life and deal damage. It just, I don't know. It's seemingly like they just hate warriors. I don't know what it is, but we keep screaming warriors need buffs, warrior needs buffs, and they just keep nerfing it. Seismic Cry no longer resets the cooldown if it doesn't empower an attack. It got rid of the extra knockback distance. It got rid of the extra stun buildup. Ancestral Warrior Totems. Unlimited amount of totem summoned, but they require 3 endurance charges to summon one. What's a good way you could get endurance charges? By stacking the amount of stun buildup on Seismic Cry, making it to where when you heavy stun something, it breaks their armor, and then when you break their armor, you gain an endurance charge. But now you're going to need an asinine amount of stun buildup because the damage from Seismic Cry is so low, and you can't cast it multiple times because it's going to go on cooldown every time you use it. So you're going to have to cycle between like 5 different shouts, like with an extreme cooldown reduction, in order to summon 1 totem. I don't know what you're going to do with a boss. I don't know. You're going to have to just stack up a bunch of totems and hope somehow with their 50% reduced attack speed. Because, yeah, they reduced the attack speed too. So now you need endurance charges, and they're going to deal damage 50% of the speed, which is basically another nerf. Just nerf after nerf after nerf after nerf to warrior class. And well, again, classes aren't tied to weapons, and weapons aren't tied to classes. But if you're in the warrior passive area, you're basically going to be using maces for the most part. The average player, that's the fantasy. You're going to be using shields, and all this stuff got nerfed. And none of it was in the live stream. They're like, oh, buffs for everyone. You get a buff. You get a buff. You get a buff. But that wasn't the case. That's not the actuality. That's not realistically the scenario that's going on, guys. And it just seemed incredibly disingenuous. I don't know. I've never in my whole time of playing games been more excited for a patch and then been more let down when I actually read the patch notes. Like when you read the cliff notes that they present you, you're like, oh, fuck yeah. Oh, hell yeah. That's going to be dope. Can't wait to play. Then I read the patch notes as a warrior main, and arguably every character I make is just a warrior archetype. It's like a blood mage role-playing as a warbringer, a pathfinder role-playing as a warbringer. So like me, personally, all my builds are dead. They're just like murdered. So we're gonna, again, I'm still excited to play it because I could be way off base. There is a chance that somehow, some way, all these nerfs, in the totality of the patch, warriors will come out okay. But I cannot fathom a world where there is one warrior build using any of the things that got nerfed that is in the top 20 of builds as far as by the end of the league. Even with astronomical currency thrown at it, I just can't imagine it. So that's basically all I got. Leave me a comment down below whether you agree or disagree. Let's find some common ground, or maybe we can't. If you liked what you saw, give the video a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We will be covering all things Warrior and all things that involve crafting and currency and league starts and all that in the upcoming future. You already know what it is. I love you guys. You are enough. Stay blessed. And as always, stay mouthy. We'll see you on the next one.